There's a battery on a garage wall in a suburb I could name but won't. $14,000 installed. It's bolted to the drywall next to the water heater, a sleek white slab, the kind the salesman called peace of mind when he shook the homeowner's hand 2 summers ago. Right now it's dark. One little status light that should be green is dead. And it's 19 degrees outside. The power's been out 3 days. Ice storm took the lines down across the whole county. Inside that house, a family is sleeping in coats. And here's the part that should stop your heart. That battery is charged. 94%. It's sitting there full of electricity, enough to run the furnace fan and the fridge and a few lights for days. And it will not give up a single watt. Because there's a message glowing on the homeowner's phone. Backup reserve unavailable. Upgrade to storm mode, $9.99 a month. The subscription lapsed. A card expired. And a fully charged $14,000 battery that this family owns on paper has decided on its own that they haven't paid for permission to use their own power. Sit with that. You can own the hardware and still not own what's inside it. Stay with me, because by the end of this you're going to know exactly which 5 technologies do this to you, which ones look like independence and are actually a leash, and which ones I'd stake my own family's winner on instead. My name's Cole Merrick. I spent the better part of 2 decades in places where the supply trucks stopped coming, and then I came home and worked a grid down after a hurricane, and watched a whole town figure out by day 3 who'd bought freedom and who'd only rented it. I've packed wounds in the field with less than what's in your bathroom cabinet. I don't scare easy, and I don't raise my voice. I'm just gonna tell you what I've seen. So let me tell you the one thing nobody selling you preparedness will say out loud. You've been sold subscriptions to survival, a metered drip of power, water, heat, and communication that stops the exact moment you need it most. Because a one-time purchase you own outright is worthless to a business that needs you paying every single month. That's the crime these 5 things share. Every one of them lets a household disconnect, and every one of them has been quietly buried, complicated, or upcharged into a monthly plan for that reason. Now, I want to be careful here, because this is where most channels lose the plot. This isn't a conspiracy with a meeting in a back room. There's no villain twirling a mustache. It's something quieter and worse, a shared silence between everyone who profits from you never being self-sufficient. The utilities, the telecoms, the appliance makers whose whole valuation depends on you staying a customer for life. Nobody has to give the order. The incentives give it for them. That's why you'll never see a commercial for the things I'm about to name. Dead men don't buy razors, and self-sufficient households don't pay monthly bills. And here's the test I want you to run on everything. Every gadget, every smart upgrade, every glossy prepper toy from here on out. One test. If it needs permission to work, you don't own it. You're renting it. When the network dies, when the account lapses, when the company goes bankrupt and the servers go dark, does the thing still work in your hands? If the answer is no, it was never survival gear. It was a bill with a battery in it. Real survival technology is dumb on purpose. It works with no signal, no login, and no invoice. Write that down. It's the whole show. Let me start with the one you're most likely to already own, because the story of how we got here tells you everything. There used to be a stove in nearly every rural American kitchen that would run for 40 years on wood you cut yourself. My grandmother cooked on a cast iron range that her mother cooked on. No cord, no pilot, no app. You fed it and it fed you. And when the grid went down, and out where she lived it went down plenty, nothing changed in her kitchen at all. Now walk into a modern home and try to cook when the power's out. That gleaming induction cooktop? dead glass. That smart range that texts you when the roast is done. A brick. We took the single most reliable appliance in the house and made it depend on the one thing that fails first. So technology number one on the blacklist is the simple, non-electric gravity and flame kitchen. A rocket stove, a quality propane two-burner, a wood cook stove if you've got the space. I'm talking about a $60 rocket stove that'll boil a pot of water on a handful of twigs. Notice who doesn't advertise these. There's no monthly revenue in a chunk of steel that outlives you. But when I worked that hurricane grid down, the households eating hot food on day 3 weren't the ones with the $8,000 kitchens. They were the ones with a dented camp stove and 2 green propane bottles from the hardware store. Buy the bottles. Buy 4. They don't expire, and they don't ask for your login. Here's a number I want you to actually feel. A hand pump well setup, a deep well hand pump you install alongside your existing electric one, runs you somewhere between $1,100 and $2,000, once, forever. Municipal water and the electric pump that most rural homes rely on. That stops the instant the power does. Most people don't know their water is electric. It is. The pump in your well needs the grid, and city pressure needs pumping stations that need the grid too. That's the second one. Independent water. A hand pump that draws straight up out of your own ground with your own arm. Now you're thinking, I'll just store water. I've got cases of bottles in the garage. Good. That buys you maybe 2 weeks if you're strict, and you will not be strict because you'll be washing wounds and flushing toilets, and it'll be gone faster than you think. The pump doesn't run out. I've watched people ration bottled water down to sips while a functioning well sat under their feet. Useless, because the thing that lifted the water needed a utility that had failed. Water is the clock that runs faster than any other. You don't want to be watching it. Now, pay attention to this next one, because it's the one they've fought the hardest and buried the deepest. You've heard that solar makes you energy independent. That's the pitch. Panels on the roof, clean power, off the grid. It's a beautiful story, and most of it is a lie. And here's the mechanism nobody explains at the sales table. Almost every residential solar system installed in this country is what's called grid-tied. When the grid goes down, your solar panels, sitting there in full sun, generating power, automatically shut off. On purpose. It's a safety feature so linemen don't get electrocuted by your system backfeeding the line, and that part's legitimate. But here's what they don't tell you. It means the sunniest day of the year, with a roof full of panels you paid 30 grand for, gives you exactly nothing when the power's out. Blackout at noon, and your solar house is as dark as your neighbor's. So the third technology on the blacklist isn't solar. It's the small, dumb, off-grid solar setup they'd rather you never learn about. A couple 100 watts of panel, a basic charge controller, a deep cycle battery, and a plain inverter. No monitoring app, no cloud account, no storm mode. A rig you can build for $400 to $600 that will charge your phone, run a lamp, keep a CPAP going, and power a radio through a week of darkness. And it doesn't care one bit whether the grid is alive or dead, because it was never tied to it. That's the difference between energy you own and energy you're allowed to use. Remember that battery on the garage wall. 94%. Locked. That's the expensive version of dependence. The $400 version is free. Let me correct something you've been told, because this myth gets people killed slower than the others, but just as surely. The common wisdom is that if the grid goes down, your cell phone is your lifeline. Keep it charged, keep it handy, help is a call away. Now, here's the blunt truth. Cell towers have backup batteries that last On average, about 4 hours. A few have generators with maybe a day of fuel. After that, every tower in the disaster zone goes silent, and your $2,000 phone becomes a flashlight with a clock. During a bad storm, the towers that survive get so jammed you can't get a call out anyway. I've stood in a place where a whole region's phones went dark inside an afternoon, and the only people who could talk to anyone were the ones holding a technology that's been called obsolete for 30 years, which is number 4, the humble two-way radio. A basic handheld you can get for $25, $30, or better. A general mobile radio unit for $100. These don't need a tower. They don't need a network. They don't need a company to stay in business. Radio to radio, they just work. Line of sight, no invoice, no permission. Get your family on the same channels. Agree on a check-in time. Now here's my honesty beat, because I won't sell you fairy tales. The cheap radios have real range limits. A mile or two in the trees, more in the open, and that's it. They're not magic. And the good stuff, the ham radios that'll reach a county over, legally require a license to transmit on. That license, by the way, is one of the last honest bargains left. $35, a test you can study for in a weekend, and it's yours for a decade. But the point stands. It's a technology that answers to physics, not to a billing department. When the towers die, radio is what's left. It's what's always been left. And that brings me to the last one. And this is the one I held back on purpose, because it's the most important and the least understood. Everything I've named so far, the stove, the pump, the solar rig, the radio, every one of them lives or dies on your ability to keep it alive. And modern life has quietly stolen that ability from you. Think about it. When did you last fix anything? The dishwasher, the truck, the furnace. You call someone. You pay someone. And the manufacturers have made it worse on purpose, welding cases shut, gluing batteries in, writing software that refuses to run if you swap a part yourself. They call it a warranty. It's a leash. It ensures that when a thing breaks, you can't fix it. You can only replace it from them, forever. So the 5th technology on the blacklist isn't a gadget at all. It's the tools and the manuals to repair your own equipment, and the mindset that goes with them. A basic mechanics set, a multimeter, a $40 tool that lets you diagnose a dead circuit instead of guessing, a soldering iron, printed manuals on paper for every critical thing you own, because a PDF on a dead phone helps nobody. This is the one that ties the whole list together. There's that shared silence again. A repairable thing is a thing you buy once. An unrepairable thing is a thing you buy again and again and again. Guess which one gets built? Let me tell you the moment this became real for me. Day 4 after that hurricane. A man 2 streets over had a generator that quit. Perfectly good generator. It just wouldn't start. He was ready to throw it out and sit in the dark, because to him it was a sealed miracle box. It was a dirty spark plug and a clogged carburetor, 20 minutes and a set of hands that knew where to look. We got it running. His family had lights that night. Not because he owned better gear than his neighbors, because somebody knew how to fix the gear he had. That's the difference. That's the whole difference. Now I owe you a straight word about getting this wrong, because I've watched enthusiasm hurt people. Every one of these technologies involves something that can kill you if you're careless. A wood stove or a propane burner run indoors without ventilation makes carbon monoxide, and carbon monoxide is silent, and it does not wake you up. Buy a battery carbon monoxide detector. $10 and never run combustion in a closed space. Solar and battery wiring done wrong starts fires. If you're not sure, you get someone who knows to check your work. Don't let the fear I've put in you tonight push you into moving fast and sloppy. Slow is smooth. Smooth is safe. The whole point is to still be here. Let me give you one thing from the old-timers before I let you go, because it costs almost nothing and it saved lives long before any of us were born. It's called a hay box or a retained heat cooker, and my grandmother swore by it. You bring a pot of stew or beans to a hard boil for a few minutes. That's all the fuel it takes. Then you seal that hot pot inside a well-insulated box, packed tight with blankets, towels, crumpled newspaper, and you walk away. 4, 5, 6 hours later, it's still cooking, slow and low, on 0 additional fuel. In a grid-down winter when every stick of firewood and every ounce of propane counts, a hay box stretches your fuel 3-4 times over. It's just physics and patience. No cord, no company, no permission. It's the whole philosophy of this list in a cardboard box full of old towels. So step back with me and look at the real shape of it. Every single thing I've named tonight does the same job. It takes one thread of your life out of the hands of a company that would rather you never learn to hold it yourself. Heat, water, power, the words you speak to the people you love, and the skill to keep it all running. That's not paranoia. That's just refusing to be a metered customer at the moment your life depends on the meter still reading 0. Here's what I want you to do this week. Not this year, this week. Buy the carbon monoxide detector first. $10. Do it today. Then pick up 2 propane bottles and a cheap rocket stove or camp stove so you can make hot food with the power off. Then get 1 pair of 2-way radios and put them in a drawer your family knows about. That's under $150 in 3 trips. And it moves you further toward real independence than that $14,000 battery ever moved that family in the cold. Everything else, the well pump, the off-grid solar, the tools and manuals, you build over the coming months, one honest purchase at a time. Now I want to hear from you and I read these. Tell me in the comments, what's the one thing in your house right now that you know, deep down, would stop working the second the power went out? Name it. Because naming it is the first step to fixing it. Next time, I'm gonna open on a chest freezer, full of a summer's worth of meat, and a power outage that's about to turn $1,000 of food into a biohazard in 72 hours. Unless you know the 3 old methods of keeping food safe with no electricity at all. Methods your great-grandparents used every single day that nobody bothered to teach us because there's no money in a family that can feed itself. I'll show you all 3. Until then, keep your head down, keep your people close, and keep your independence in your own 2 hands.